Guns don't kill people. Music kill people. Ave Mujika collab is coming soon for all of you Bang Dream fans, and Togawa is the 6th star of the group. Togawa arrives as a Lord Guard, if anyone even remembers this as a Guard subclass and not a Thorn subclass. Lords have a long range, but their range attacks deal 80% of their attack and can hit flying enemies. Their stats are fairly balanced but comes with resistance. Blah blah blah, very cool. Talent 1. Continuous attack. What's that? Attack continuously, regardless if there are enemies or not. Each attack becomes a musical note that tracks when spotting an enemy. Music notes will disappear when out of attack range after a short while, and for every music note that exists, every Ave Mujika member ignores 3% defense and 2% resistance, stacking up to 10 times. Already looking at this, it already is pretty good from the get-go with the defense and resistance ignore on a passive just from notes existing. And they will exist, obviously, all the time, since she attacks continuously, with excellent synergy with the rest of the band. But similarly, it is quite hard to make use of the last half of the talent if you're just playing her solo, but may come in some use during skill use, hint hint. Tracking and continuous attack are just good quality of lives, since tracking on a projectile is always a guaranteed hit unless the tracking is so off you end up peeing on the rim of a toilet seat. And the continuous attack always makes sure that at least 2 or 3 nodes has that defense ignore. The very obvious and extremely annoying outlier is the expiration date on each note after leaving the range. As we all know, Lord Rangers starts off big and eventually becomes a skinny stick. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if some musical notes didn't have stage 3 brain damage and other musical notes having an undergraduate degree, so you can be pretty unlucky with some notes swerving out of her range early and some just goes forward. And yeah, it's kinda like the sperm race. Her second talent treats every other Ave Mujika member's range as her range as well, if they overlap with her range. Operators in her range gains 12 attack speed, and damaging an enemy gains 3 points of fever. Probably the most important part of her kit is the fever. It's their band's main thing. So, to explain fever. Fever is an act of being too loud after hitting 250 fever points. You can tell your fever progress by looking at the music notes right here. After activating any Ave Mujikas, all of them will activate their skills as well, lasting 20 seconds. That's it. Now, you may be asking, well, that's kinda shit. Just wait. And yeah, she has to hit anything 150 times for this. And yes, I know it's supposed to be used with a band, but looking at this from just herself solo way, it's a lot of hits, and it's mostly gonna be once or twice times a stage thing unless the fight is really dragging. One good thing about Fever is that it is a global meter, keeping its counter even after retreating or when there are no other Mujika members on the field, which is great, since, you know, if everyone died and the meter reset after building up, then, you know, it's pretty annoying. For the rest of the talent, they're also great, since extending her range expands how far her projectiles go, and the general attack buff is good too if they make use of it. But definitely won't be too important. The main thing is that she can build Fever. Skill 1 is pretty much just a press button and do good burst damage on multiple charges. Pretty good if you want a consistent good amount of damage when you need it, though it could get annoying with its auto activation with 1 charge at max, but ultimately it's technically more of a quality of life, making this skill pretty good for AFK clears, and you have 1 charge left anyway. The damage reduction kind of ruins it a little bit, but for elite and high enemies, but is whatever and kills everything else just fine. Now, before I move on, I do want to do a quick spoiler that all of her skills are offensive recovery, but continuous attack helps with this much better anyway, since offensive only charge skill on from attacking and not actually hitting enemies, so continuous attack charges skill anyway, so this mechanism applies to all of her skills, just so that we're clear. A skill 2 is a stance change skill that switches between piano and organ. Piano is more like a gun with faster projectile and piercing, and organ is more like fire faster projectile, but they travel much slower. Now, Note that it says during Fever, play 2 notes instead. But what happens when the Fever meter is full on a stance changing skill? Well, in this case, Fever takes over. Activating her skill will not change your stance, but instead amplify the current stance that you're in, which in this case, she will shoot 2 notes instead of 1. Now we got that out of the way, so about the stances. TLDR, Piano for wave enemies and Organ for big beefier enemies. Since Piano has AoE attack and the projectile can go much further because of its travel speed, and it can clear waves pretty well, but the damage against tougher opponents compared to Organ is generationally different for enemies with good defense stat, since Organ is all arts damage, and obviously Piano will be a higher damage value if the boss is overloaded with resistance, but that's, standard knowledge. Either way, this skill is pretty much like Mountain, except you need a source of sustain, but with the option to do very good burst damage whenever you need. Skill 3. Remember what Skill 2 was? Well, that's 40% of Skill 3 when activated, including Skill 2's Fever effect by the way. With a better attack buff, the only thing missing is the attack speed, and now it has a target priority, but meh. And during Fever, no one in her band can die, but will die anyways when Fever ends if their HP, gets hit to a lethal amount of HP during Fever. But they will not die if they, still have HP left before Fever ends. So just looking at this skill from first glance, it's a DPS skill. How much damage is it? A lot. It's a lot of damage. The range buff is great, making notes have a lesser chance of wandering outside the range, and the priority targeting is actually a good thing, allowing her to ignore trash mobs with her attacks wasting basically no damage. And the Fever makes this even better. Not only that it comes with the perk of being invincible for 20 seconds, it technically counts as 20 more seconds to your skill, as her skill timer will only start to count down after the Fever timer, extending DPS and has the ability to stall. This skill pretty much kills anything, so the only thing that's holding it back really is the long cooldown, but it's like the same as Mona, so you can definitely wait this out. Skill 3 is the obvious pick. Even with the long cooldown, I still believe that you should mastery Skill 3 first before you do any other one, since it can be used in boss situations or a bunch of tanky things that you just need to kill. Skill 2 is it's good, but imagine Typhon. Skill 3 is big damage, but Skill 2 is just AFK, let her shoot, and let things die. It's kinda like that. So you still should mastery Skill 2. The damage is pretty impressive for a Skill 1, but I still think Skill 2 beats it in pretty much every way. Her module gives her 12 attack speed when there are 2 or more enemies in her range. Helps with wave enemies, but nah. Enhancing her talent though is the better part of this module, which helps with DPS or just damage in general, especially with Skill 2 Organ and Skill 3. The stats are good too, and if you really want to min-max her damage, then obviously getting module stage 3 is the way to go. But this module is not very kit defining or too important for literally anything else. Her endgame usage is pretty much the same as Typhon. Skill 2 to hold space really well, and Skill 3 to do massive damage against anything. Especially in IS, where her everything can be boosted and amplified. Her S2 will be able to hold so much space, and obviously Skill 3 will do a very good job at damage, but the higher difficulty you go, the more Skill 3 becomes less effective compared to other damaging units, and Skill 2 would ultimately be her main use. You may be asking, but it does really good damage. Why is Skill 2 going to be used most of the time? The only thing that I see holding Skill 3 back in endgame is the archetype. What do I mean? Well, take some other damage dealers for an example. They have the sustain, or they can be placed really far away, or be placed on a range tile, or have a gimmick that just lets them live, which are typically more safe than, being down there and being able to block. Majority of boss stages are often very dangerous for ground units, and the majority of stages in general would prefer Skill 2's space holding capability, giving you the chance to have another damage dealer with better survivability. Now, obviously if there's a safe ground tile to DPS, then go for it, but it's just a general advice. In CC, she can hit quite hard, and the invincibility can come in useful this time, since most of the time in game modes like CC, it's drop, Skill 3, or Skill 2 for some people, and leave. And Skill 2 is fine for holding space, but it won't be as effective because of the big stat gap, and again, it comes with the idea of wanting to sustain from something, and in CC, it's not very affordable most of the times. So overall, I do believe that she is a good contender in endgame activities, and it doesn't really fall into the replaceable tier, neither does it fall into a must pick tier either. She is a collab unit. Think about it, there hasn't been a single collab unit that has ever came back a second time. So yeah, yes, if you actually know Bang Dream. Yes, if you also like to sing. Yes, if you don't have Typhon. And a no, if you don't bang dreams. Now, will I be pulling for her? Okay, hi, quick little thing. If you're wondering if I'll make Enfield operator videos, I probably will for the current and upcoming 6 stars, but that probably won't stop the fairy crafting Enfield content either, so I love you. Mwah.